Hello again, everybody. We're back again today with a video here. Sam St. John joining me, my usual partner on these classic album song ranking. We've done 20. We've got 20 in the bank. And after the first 10, we did a sort of a ranking of our 10 number ones from the first set of albums. And we're at that point again where we've gone through our second batch of 10, and we're going to rank our number one songs from each of those albums. And as a refresher, I just want to go through the albums in the last 10, and then we'll get into the ranking itself. First, we did Blonde on Blonde with Glenn Kellaway from The Basement. Next time up, we went into Madman Across the Water with Randy Nelson. Then it was The Boss, Bruce Springsteen's Born to Run with Josh from The Flip Side. Then Who's Next? We actually had two guys on that join us on this. It was Sam, myself, Gary, Physical Format, Rock and Roll, and Randy Nelson, who loves The Who. So we thought it was only right to bring him in on Who's Next. Next up, we had more of the Monkees. This was a surprise for a lot of people. They didn't consider it classic, but we went with it anyway. We wanted to do a Monkees one. This is more of the Monkees, and we did this with Chris Prophy. Then we went to R.E.M's classic Automatic for the People with Brian from Massey's Main Entertainment. The Cars debut album. Unbelievable. We did this with Aramuth Alameyer. Aramuth Alameyer. I don't have the actual album, but this is part of a box set. Bridge Over Troubled Water. We did this with Tom Williams, Simon and Garfunkel, of course. Tom Petty's first solo album, Full Moon Fever. A big one for Sam St. John, I know, one of his favorites. And we had Josh again from JC from The Flip Side join us on this. And last week, of course, we did John Prine's solo self-titled debut album from 1971. And Glenn Kellaway again. He was our bookend guy on the 10 videos.
That's true.
So we started with Glenn, we ended with Glenn. So that was a fun set of 10. Now our job is to rank the number one. So this was tough, Sam, I tell you.
It was tough. There are a lot of different styles. I mean, everything from, songwriter to new wave kind of with the Cars to, bubblegum pop with the Monkees. Just all around, it's a good batch of albums. Like you said, there might have been one or two. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people don't consider John Prine to be a classic album, or more of the Monkees to be a classic album, but it'll be interesting to see where they both hold up amongst the other so-called classics.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to go in reverse order, one at a time. We'll go 10 down to 1 just to see what we consider the best song among this batch. So started off for us, number 10.
Yeah, and again, this was difficult to do because this isn't just a single group of 10 songs. These were our number one songs. So I mean, we might nitpick these songs, but we loved all of them. Number 10 for me, probably because it's the least like any of my style that I like, is going to be from the Cars. My best friend's girl. Again, probably the more. And it was funny. I know when we finished the video, Aaron Muth Alamer said that he knew what the number one was going to be from us. Yeah, I mean, it's probably the more country tinge song, but it's still got that classic car sound. It's the second track on the debut album, and I mean, it's a fantastic radio friendly song. Nothing not to like about it, but again, compared to the other songs, in terms of styles that I listen to on a regular basis, that's least like what I listen to. Is that new wave, late 70s rock, but love the song, and it's number 10.
Yeah. My number 10, I went with I'm Not Your Stepping Stone from the More of the Monkees album. This is the one that, I don't know, just didn't meet the standards of the rest of them, although I do love it. I think it's a great Monkee song, a great 60s pop tune. I had a hard time on this album as far as what I wanted one. I remember it was a battle between I'm a Believer, I think, and I like some of these lesser hits too, like Mary Mary and so many good ones. But anyway, I'm going to go with I'm Not Your Stepping Stone. classic 60s, then, stuff. So not a lot to say.
I'm going to stick to the same album, more of the Monkees. My number one, sorry for the lighting. My number one was Kind of Girl I Could Love, which is the Michael Nesmith tune on the album. I think it's the only song that he sings on the album, which puts this album much lower than a lot of other Monkees albums, even though this was a huge album at the time. Again, it was the album that came out that the Monkees didn't know was coming out. All these songs were recorded during the first album sessions, and just came out a few months after the first album. But it's number 9 again. I love Michael Nesmith, and under normal circumstances, Michael Nesmith would be very high. But this isn't one of my favorite Nes songs. And again, the reason it was my number 1 on this album was because it was the lone Nes tune that he sang. So number 9, Kind of Girl I Could Love.
Yeah, I remember I was kind of surprised in a way that you picked that number 1, but being a Nesmith tune, it makes a lot of sense. And I've been listening to it. It's caught on to me. So I think it's a better song than I gave it credit for.
Yeah.
My number 9, we sort of flip-flopped album.
We did. Cool.
We had the same song though. My Best Friend's Girl. That was one that we had in common off of this album. This is like chock full of great songs. I love the guitar work by Elliot Easton on this album. OK6 songwriting and Ben Orr, fantastic. This is so catchy, so melodic, and it was perfect for the new wave frontier that would begin with 1977, 78, in that range. So I'm going to go with the Cars debut and My Best Friend's Girl, and She Used to Be Mine.
Number 8 for me, one of my favorite songs, especially since I just recently discovered the song in the last 5 years or so, thanks to Sirius Radio. It's from Automatic for the People, Night Swimming. I know it's, I believe it's Brian Massey's favorite R.E.M. song.
Yeah.
I don't know R.E.M. like he does, but as of now, it's probably my favorite R.E.M. song of the songs that I know from R.E.M. Just a beautiful ballad, strings produced by John Paul Jones of Led Zeppelin, who had a hand in several of the songs on this album. Just a great song about, nostalgia, about being a kid, going swimming with friends. Michael Stipe has that longing and that sadness in his voice that he was so famous for, especially late 80s, early 90s, when he was really focusing on singing versus just the noise of the music and, not having his lyrics buried underneath the guitars. Really, it's almost not an R.E.M. song in terms of how it sounds. it's got that symphonic pop, like Beatle-y kind of sound to it, like an Eleanor Rigby kind of song.
Yeah.
And I love it. I think it's a beautiful song. But it's only number 8 on my series of 10.
Yeah, this next one might be a surprise for people that I know. I love Tom Petty.
Wow.
I went with I Won't Back Down as my number 8. I just like those 7 in front of it better. This is sort of a Petty anthem. Petty stood up against whoever he had to stand up against. He wasn't backing down from the record companies or people telling him what to do. He was his own guy. Even his own bandmates, when he went to make a solo album, he let them deal with their hurt feelings of not being included in this and that. He was his own man. He had a mission, and he went by what he thought was right. So I just love this. You can apply the lyrics in this song, like I said many times, to your own life. You're up against it, back against the wall. You're not going to back down. It's a great song in concert, which I've witnessed. The audience just galvanized by this song. So Tom Petty, I Won't Back Down. Classic.
Big surprise. Number 7 for me, from Blonde on Blonde, Just Like a Woman. Again, one of Dylan's greatest love songs. Just heartbreaking in lyrics about, she aches just like a woman. She makes love like a woman, but she breaks just like a little girl. Again, it doesn't sound like the rest of the songs on this album, because so much of this album is it's so deep lyrically. It's so full of references, and it's hard to explain it. It's open for interpretation, different songs, but this is one of those songs on the album. Probably the reason I like it the most is because it's straightforward. You know exactly what he's singing about, exactly what he means. You don't need to be a literary expert to know what he's writing about. And just, yeah, one of the all-time great Dylan ballads, one of the great Dylan love songs. Just Like a Woman, number 7.
My 7 is the one we did last week, the John Prine song, Sam Stone. This is a song about addiction and the effects of it, Vietnam vet coming home, and whether it's morphine or heroin or whatever he's doing, there's a hole in daddy's arm where the money goes, you know, and just heartbreaking stuff. And what can you say? It's dark, it's dirty, it's tough to listen to, but it's so perfectly written. And many people were living the lives that this guy was talking about. Prine, he tapped into what was going on around him. Vietnam War, he saw people come home and had to deal with this kind of stuff, and he put it down on paper and wrote a song about it. And it's absolutely beautiful. If it's possible to be beautiful and disturbing at the same time, this is it right here. This is a great song. Sam Stone.
Number 6 for me, sorry, Rich, is Born to Run, the title track, which was my number 1 from the album. And again, thank you, Rich, for this album and for the Cars album that I showed earlier. Probably the most iconic Bruce Springsteen song ever. I mean, Bruce is known for shaking up his set list every night, but Born to Run, there's always a slot for Born to Run. I mean, he's going to play it. He can play 100 songs you've never heard before, but he's going to play Born to Run. I mean, he still does. And just great lyrics. It's just, you know, it's classic Bruce and the E Street Band. It's the horns, the, you know, fist pumping, you know, driving your car down the highway kind of song. Everybody knows the song. It's still played on classic rock radio to death, but it's one of those songs that they play to death that I still don't get sick of. And I'll go a while without hearing it, just not on purpose, but then I'll hear it again. I'm like, man, that's a really powerful song. And I hate that it's in the middle like it is here at number 6, but it is today.
Yeah, this is the best of the best, so it's understandable. My number 6 is REM's Everybody Hurts. That's the one I like the best off this album. Another one of those deep kind of songs that, whether it be somebody getting bullied or abused or whatever, loneliness, despair, you go through your life with everybody and you realize everybody hurts sometimes. Hold on, an anti-suicide song. Don't give up. There's always hope, and you'll get through it somehow, some way. And I like Stipe's voice on this. It's so heartfelt. There's pain in it. It really works for me. This is a great album, by the way. This is on second listen after we decided to do this. You know, you keep listening to it, and very, very deep. Of the 12 songs, I pretty much like 10 of them a lot. And this was the one that was number 1. Everybody hurts sometimes.
All right, we're breaking in the top 5, and this is when it started really getting dicey in my ranking. I concluded my ranking today, the day that we're filming this, and this was hard. But one of the probably the deepest cut on the top 10 list for me, from Madman Across the Water, Holiday Inn was my number 1. Just I love the mandolin played on that by Davy Johnston. You know, it's about life on the road. Elton John, you know, Holiday Inn is an American, at least back in the day, it was an American chain. And Elton tells the story, you know, he's like, in America, on every corner, there's a chain of hotels called the Holiday Inn. And, you know, he stayed in so many of those first couple of tours that he was on in the United States. And it captures that, you know, that dull lifestyle of going on stage, loving the stage, but then going back to the Holiday Inn. You know, I love the line about, you know, twiddle my thumbs in a dozen odd bands. And then he says, you ain't seen nothing till you've been in a motel, baby, like the Holiday Inn. Just, you know, they hand the hot towels around. He talks about that. Just a really folky Elton John. I mean, this was kind of the era where him and Bernie Taupin were really writing American-based songs. I mean, albums like this, Hunky Chateau, Tumbleweed Connection, were all very American, you know, in terms of their themes and, you know, talking about the Wild West, you know, cowboys and Indians, all that good stuff that they were writing about at this time. And this is just a killer, near perfect album. So I know it's Randy Nelson's favorite. It's my favorite Elton John too. So Holiday Inn made the top 5.
Yeah, it's up there for me as far as Elton John's concerned. I my favorite song off this album is Tiny Dancer. Lead off track, and of course made ultra famous by the movie, Almost Famous, the bus scene where they're all together and singing and bonding and that type of thing. But this was not, even though it got a lot of radio play, it was not a big chart topping hit. Sort of grown through the years on FM radio and that, but it was not a, I don't think it made the top 20 as I recall. I think it was like in the 30s or something. Great song. I love the lyrics. There's, you know, count the headlights on the highway and lay me down in sheets of linen. You had a busy day today. Just Bernie Taupin, great songwriter. Elton John, great piano player and composer. And they come up with this beauty. This album, this is another one of these albums that once we dove into it, you realize that these deep tracks are killer too. Just a great album. It's probably my second or third favorite. I like Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, and I love Tumbleweed Connection, but this is right there in the top 3, easy. Great song, Tiny Dancer, #1 from this particular album, and #5 on this batch that we're doing today.
Here's another surprise again. As much as I tout this artist, he only reached #4, and that's Sam Stone. You talked about it earlier. John Prine from the debut. You already mentioned it. We talked about it. You just posted the video not too long ago today, and it's Prine at his darkest, but also at his most clever in terms of the lyrical content. Yeah, I know it's touched a lot of Vietnam vets, and at this point, just vets in general. I mean, after so many other conflicts that have happened in the 50+ years since Vietnam. Yeah, it's a downer, but it's one that, you know, you stop and listen to it when it's playing.
Absolutely.
And
every word means something too.
there's no filler on that track, and that's most John Prine songs. He doesn't really add a lot of filler. It's just, you know, verse chorus, not even a whole lot of, he doesn't really do a bridge much, and he just gets the lyrics out there and they mean something. And one of my favorites, but it's only #4.
My #4 is an all-time staple of classic rock, and that's Baba O'Reilly off Who's Next. Came in at #4, an anthem for teenage rebellion and teenage wasteland. You know, this is a song we looking out at the crowd at Woodstock, and everybody's high, and decided to write this classic that came out a couple years later. And this is another one. This is the leadoff track. There's something about leadoff tracks I like. I noticed I have a few of them on my #1s here. So great stuff. Daltrey, what can you say? His voice was in perfect shape here. He just peak of his career. The whole band really kicking on all cylinders. And I can still see, you know, that windmill that Townsend does with the guitar. Everything's just perfect here. You still had Keith Moon in the band, of course, Entwistle, the whole gang. This is vintage Who, Baba O'Reilly, Teenage Wasteland.
#3, you already talked to. Well, no, I don't think you have. No, you showed this album there in the beginning, but
yeah,
from Bridge Over Troubled Water, my #1 song was The Boxer, which is #3 on this top 10. Again, it's smack dab in the middle of the album. It's Paul Simon's standard. He still does it now that he just occasionally sings. He just did it at Newport, the folk festival, with all sorts of people, Lucas Nelson, Nathaniel Rateliff. It's just one of those songs that has been passed down from the generations, and has taken on just a epic, you know, a whole epic character to it. And of course, you know, that end where it's just the repetition of the la da da la da 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 with Hal Blaine hitting those drums from the Wrecking Crew. Just it's incredible that Paul Simon could write songs. Like, I mean, if you just look at the track list on this album, just the songs that he was writing at this age, it's just incredible. And hard to believe he just turned 82. So
yeah,
The Boxer is #3.
Yeah, my number 3 is off of Dylan's Blonde on Blonde. That's Visions of Johanna. Just a lyrical masterpiece. Glenn Kellaway would agree with that. I just love some of these lyrics here. Lights flicker from the opposite loft. In this room, the heat pipes just cough. The country music station plays soft, but there's nothing, really nothing to turn off. And of course, the elephant and the what's the lyric I'm looking for here? I don't know these by heart, and I should. Something about the hanging something on an animal. What was that called here? I can't find it. Sorry. I'm scrambling. Anyway, doesn't matter. Bob Dylan can write a song with anybody. The bones in her face, and he's talking about different women here and great stuff. Visions of Joanna, absolute masterpiece of songwriting, as most of Dylan was at this time of his career, between this and Highway 61 and on and on and on. That would be my number 3.
Number 2 for me. For some reason, you had this way down there, but it's another one that we agreed on. Won't Back Down. Again, the Tom Petty anthem from Full Moon Fever. It's been adopted by so many different people as an anthem, whether it's in sports or just going through tough times, bad health, whatever. It's just a feel good song. It's hard not to not feel good when listening to this song because it's so positive and so uplifting. And again, it's crazy how how many hits were on this album, and Running Down a Dream, Free Falling on there, which are all, all of them are still radio hits. You're So Bad was kind of a minor MTV hit with the video, but Won't Back Down, it's pure Tom Petty. It's got that rising chorus. It's got that guitar by Mike Campbell, the bow bow now now at the beginning. Just it's everything you want in a Tom Petty song. Positive. It's got a hook, great instrumentation, great harmony, and number 2. I'll never get tired of it.
Yeah, I'm not tired of it either. I couldn't compare it to some of these others on my particular list here. My number 2 is The Boxer. You had it at number 3. We're close. You're right, Paul Simon. I don't know how he has the life experience to write a song like this at that age. 1970, had to be 20, 29, something like that.
32. I think he was born in 41. So
yeah, he's talking, the tenements and the struggle. I like the boxing metaphor, getting in the ring and taking all the blows, and just the words he uses are so perfect. And at the same time, about somebody down on their luck. I am just a poor boy, though my story's seldom told. I have squandered my resistance. Just on and on and on. Every line perfect. A lot like the Prine song that I talked about earlier. He doesn't waste words. Each line means something. I like the la 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 la. The beautiful guitar playing as well to accompany with it. It's just a masterpiece. Clearly the best song on that album, and that's an album with Bridge Over Troubled Waters on it. So you gotta say The Box is one hell of a song. So my number 2.
Yeah, and I misspoke earlier. Paul Simon's 81, just turned 81, so not as old as I was making him out to be. Number 1 for me, probably a surprise to people because it's one of the harder songs in terms of the sound out of the top 10, but it's Won't Get Fooled Again.
Oh wow.
Nice. The Who. And I know that when we did this with Gary and Randy, I was the only one that chose this song as number 1. You all 3 chose Bob O'Reilly. Again, just you talked about the opener of this album. This is the closer of the album. How great of an album does it have to be to bookend with those 2 songs?
Yeah.
And then there's no, other than maybe My Wife, there's not really much filler.
No.
In the middle of the record, and of course you've got like the weird synth. The song takes its time. It's over 8 minutes long. You've got that crazy almost Ringo Starr inspired drum solo by Keith Moon, that before Roger Daltrey lets out, you know, that incredible scream that has been voted to be the greatest in rock and roll history. Like you said, peak of his prowess. All of the guys they were all in peak form, you know, regardless of what they were going through in their personal lives with addiction and crazy partying, whatever they were doing.
Yep.
Yes, songs like Baba O'Reilly and Won't Get Fooled Again. I mean, that's a band. That's a band that they weren't letting up. I mean, they still had a few big hits left in them, but an album as strong as Who's Next didn't really come after that.
No.
So number one for me is Won't Get Fooled Again.
Yeah, my number one, I went with my favorite song off this album, and that's Jungle Land off the Born to Run album. That's the closing track. We both had closers as number one. Interesting. Just a cinematic masterpiece that ties up a lot of the characters that Bruce is talking about, whether it be in the inner city or on the boardwalk or whatever. It's very romantic at the same time, very poetic, and got the great Clarence sax, killer guitar work. It slows down at the right point, it picks up at the right point, and it's just, I always say it's like West Side Story, and you got these little individual characters, and the gang kind of theme too, with the Sharks and the Jets, of course, on West Side Story, and here, you know, the rat, you know, and then the barefoot girl in the hood of a Dodge drinking warm beer in the summer rain, you know, and the Exxon sign pops out. Just beautiful imagery by Bruce. Great songwriting, with the band, again, the E Street Band kicking in as well. We couldn't do it without him. This is definitely a group effort, and a perfect album in a lot of ways, Born to Run, and it's just a wonderful song, Jungle Land. So that's my number one. A lot of great songs. Yeah, we covered a lot of ground here. I think we only had we had The Boxer in common, My Best Friend's Girl, and I Won't Back Down. Are they the only three?
Sam Stone.
Sam Stone, right. Okay.
Yeah. So we had 4.
We had 4 out of 10.
And we only matched this round just on the same album with Madman at number 5.
How about that? Yep. Very good. All right, so it's nice to recap what we've been through. We hope to do another 10 soon. Get the guys together in the VC, and before you know it, we'll have another 10 cranked out. We'll be ranking our number ones from them. So check out Sam St. John's channel. Subscribe, like this video, please. Give us some feedback. You know, the 10 albums, give us your number one song off each album. That'll be nice feedback to hear what you think of the individual albums we're talking about. So appreciate everybody watching. Look for our classic album song ranking series to continue in the coming days, and we'll hopefully have some good stuff for you for the next time out. So for Sam, this is Rich. See you next time. Thanks a lot. Bye.